Cape Cod Broadcasting weaves the listening environments of 99.9 WQRC, Ocean 104.7, WFCC Classical 107.5, Cape Country 104, and CapeCon.com's website experience to reflect the lifestyles of the people who live, work, and play on Cape Cod. We hope that you enjoy this podcast.
We watched and listened with bated breath as thousands of police officers combed empty city streets for a suspect, and just when it seemed to be over, made their arrest in a backyard boat. More than 20 of those officers came from Cape Cod, and today I'm joined by two of them to hear what they experienced that day. Sergeant Michael Damery and Officer Jonathan Path, both of the Barnstable Police Department. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So how long have you both been on the force?
I've been off for 27 years.
Mm-hmm. And John?
15 years.
Okay. So, and in all those years, had either of you ever participated in anything like this?
We participated in a variety of things, but this would probably be the largest profile, largest incident with this number of officers from this many different departments. It was definitely an unusual incident.
Absolutely. And so there were more than 9,000 people, as I understand, from departments all over New England, state police, and also the Cape Cod Regional Law Enforcement Council SWAT team. Is that right?
That's right.
And so how many of you were there total?
There was 25 of us from the Law Enforcement Council SWAT team, as well as our supporting canines.
As I understand it, I spoke to Sergeant Sean Sweeney that morning, and he told me then that you'd been called up around 8 a.m. that day, and that was about 7 hours into this crisis, about 7 hours since the first suspect had been killed in that overnight firefight. So when you arrived, what was the mood kind of like that morning?
Well, we actually got called a lot earlier than that. We got called that Monday to send the Bearcat and 2 people up, and we had been staffing that with 2 people 24 hours a day since Monday.
Right. That was so that was in the immediate aftermath of the bombings. Many officers were kind of covering other potential targets.
We were covering hotels and hospitals, which made sense given how other terrorist events have unfolded elsewhere in the world. For our Thursday night into Friday morning, we had 2 officers up there, and they were, I believe, the first armored vehicle on the scene of the shootout.
Wow.
So we got a call probably around 1:15 or 1:30, just asking to send the next 2 officers that were slated to be there at 6 o'clock up a little bit earlier. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until probably around 4:30, 5 o'clock I was called again to see how many officers we could send. And then at around 7:30, that's when they asked us to send everybody we could, and that's when the entire team was activated to head up.
Okay, so a couple of you had been up there all week.
Yes.
Right.
Wow. So, well, let's talk about that Monday a little bit. So, in that instance, when the other departments get the call to come and provide some of that relief, what are they specifically doing?
Well, I got called myself. I got called at around 6:30, and at that point it was Chief Whalen from Dennis PD is the control chief, one of the control chiefs for the regional SWAT team. He got a request to send our armored vehicle up there with 2 operators, so we made arrangements for that. I was then told that they wanted it to be up there in 12-hour shifts, so I scheduled that out for the rest of the week, and I had more than ample volunteers to go up for that, obviously. And it wasn't until Thursday that they were looking for additional people. So we sent a pretty decent-sized contingent up Thursday to assist with the hospitals and the hotels. And then Friday they were looking for everybody to augment the Boston SWAT team in Boston, as well as to assist in searching various locations in Watertown.
Mm-hmm. So you said your Bearcat was the first one of its kind on the scene of that early Friday morning shootout?
They were the closest one, and they got there. My understanding is that they did get there first, and they were being used by the State Police Bomb Squad to help mitigate the devices that were still on the street.
Okay, so is that the kind of, it's just interesting to picture the Bearcats in a sort of a neighborhood street in Watertown. Is that usually the kind of place that it's being used?
Well, it's designed to have a secure, safe atmosphere to work in, and it's designed as more of a bullet-resistant than a bomb-resistant vehicle. But it's going to be used wherever it's appropriate. We've used it a couple of times on the Cape for different incidents. We had an armed robbery that resulted in patrol locating the suspect in a house on Winter Street, and we brought the vehicle there for that because we knew that he had at least a handgun in there. So it makes sense to be safe. This is a machine that helps us do that.
Sure. So what did you both spend your time on that Friday doing once the whole group was up there, the canines, as it became daytime and the officers were starting to kind of go door to door? What were you participating in, John?
Well, we were actually doing the door to door house checks, meeting people, talking with people at their houses, just making sure everybody was okay and see if they saw anything suspicious. We were asking specifically for basements, rooftops, and backyard sheds, boats, cars. We checked a number of those all day long.
Mm-hmm. And what was it like to talk to those civilians trapped in their homes?
It was, the word surreal is being tossed around a lot this week, but it's the only word that I can best describe it. We were kind of talking amongst ourselves, saying at the time we were looking for the world's most dangerous man with explosives, and standing next to you would be the homeowner, and 2 feet away on the other side was news media. Right along with us while we were checking. So it was kind of a weird situation. I think the people were pleased to be able to come outside and get some fresh air and be involved in what's going on. But absolutely everybody was completely cooperative. Very, very glad that we were there, combing through their backyards and around their area. And I think they really genuinely felt safe. It was kind of interesting, the human aspect of everything, where they would come up first and thank you and then wanting to tell their story. So it was pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of those families with small children, we saw a lot of that on the news, them bringing them out of the homes. Did you have to, were you moving people around and clearing places?
Yeah, we were. One of our great videos that somebody took was one of our team members giving a high five to a little boy as his dad held him. And it was that kind of spirit of cooperation with the civilian crew and the law enforcement personnel that really made the whole event pretty special.
And Sergeant, what kind of things were you doing during this day?
Initially, we were on our way to search a street, and we were stopped. We were following a Bridgewater vehicle who knew where we were supposed to be searching. And we were stopped because there was a Russian-speaking gentleman who apparently had a device in his pocket or his hand and was threatening to blow police officers up with it. So we dismounted our vehicle. We went up there on foot, and we assisted in the security cordon around him. While the State Police Bomb Squad were working on him with 3 or 4 different robots at different points. And somebody was giving him instructions in Russian because apparently he spoke broken English, but enough to threaten to blow police officers up. So that was a very unusual incident. I mean, here's a group of officers from almost every federal, state, and local agency you can think of, and everybody was cooperating very, very well and working very well together to accomplish a goal. Ordinarily, that would have been a big deal, but as soon as they rendered that item safe, we just loaded back up into our vehicle and headed back off to do our job in a different area in part of Watertown.
It is amazing to hear you talk about it in a fairly casual way. I mean, it's been about a week, I guess, and it does sort of seem like, as surreal as this was just sort of you doing your everyday jobs to a certain extent.
Well, we've trained, for a variety of contingencies. We've done, anti-terrorism drills. We've worked with almost every team that we saw up there. We've either worked with in large-scale training events in the past, or we've seen at the Connecticut SWAT Challenge that we've gone to a few different times. So it was beneficial to have those relationships in advance. Most of us had each other's cell phone numbers, for at least a lot of the team leaders did. And we know the limitations and capabilities of each other. We're able to work very, very well with each other, I think. And everybody everyone's proud of their own team and their own organization, but everybody was able to just put that aside and do whatever the job was. I didn't hear anybody complain. Whatever was asked was done, and then we just moved on to whatever was next.
Mm-hmm. And so what is different about acting in a SWAT capacity as opposed to your usual patrol situation in terms of the gear and kind of the objectives that you're looking for?
Well, the equipment is considerably heavier than what we normally wear on patrol. I mean, right now, Officer Pass is working a patrol shift, and he's wearing soft body armor. When we're in for the SWAT application of it, we're wearing a helmet, a larger vest that's heavier. It's got a different plate in it to stop a higher threat as far as ballistics are concerned. We're wearing a different uniform. It's a different radio frequency. We're working as part of a team as opposed to usually just 1 or 2 officers handling a problem on patrol. So it's more it's heavier for longer as far as the physical demands on the person, but there is a certain degree of security and comfort knowing the capabilities, training, and experience of the people on your team, and this is people from different departments. So we're very comfortable with each other, and we've seen each other over the past several years. This team's been up and running, so we have a high degree of trust in each other. Not that we wouldn't with patrol, but it's just that when we're doing house entries or securing the perimeter around, a Russian that supposedly has something, and it's things that we've done either in training or for real before. So it's really as surreal as some of it is. We've been doing it all along. It's just a question of a much higher volume of it in a much smaller span of time.
Mm-hmm. And Officer Pass, I saw a photo of you actually with considerably heavier artillery as well than I think you typically carry. What was that like?
Well, that picture was taken from Monday when the Bearcat was initially brought up there. Myself and Joe Morris,
really?
was a Dennis police officer.
So that was just in Boston?
That was right in downtown Boston, on the corner of, I think, Dover and Boylston, where we had to secure the Back Bay Hilton, the Back Bay Sheraton, and the first bomb area. So that the thing about it was the traffic was stopped because so many roads were blocked. So cars were really not used, but the foot traffic was still around as far as Boston's concerned. A lot of the runners who were kind of abandoned in Boston at that time were around. Both the Sheraton and the Hilton were completely packed full of runners. So we were able to go in and calm everybody down and let them know that we're there, that things are going to be okay.
So for you to go from that fairly chaotic scene Monday, a lot of high traffic, as you say, to this total ghost town on Friday in the same basic area, what was that like?
I've never seen Boston like that. Let's put it that way. But again, people did what they were told. Not that we were out there, demanding things, but everybody just kind of banded together for the common purpose of stopping this individual or individuals, and everybody was just very cooperative with each other and willing to do whatever it took. So it was, weird to say, but it's nice to be a part of that, and we were happy to be there.
I'm curious, you mentioned a little earlier about the news media, what that was like, because, it was so heavily covered. It was like nothing I've ever seen on TV, on the radio, in terms of the level of coverage and how embedded the media were in the whole situation, considering kind of how small it was and how concentrated. What was it like to interact with all of those people?
For myself, and I think pretty much anybody on any SWAT team, I don't think any of us have been photographed as much in our entire life as we were Thursday and Friday. It was just a little bit more than a little much. In some of the areas there was fairly decent containment to keep the press and other people outside from the area, but then there were a couple of sections where there just wasn't enough manpower to make that happen. And unfortunately for us, our team was in an area where the press had a little bit more free reign. But for the most part, they were cooperative. There were a couple of times we needed them to move back, and they did, so we appreciate that. But again, it's, we work with professionals. We're used to various distractions, and we just work through the problem and solve it.
Sure. And I know that I think kind of what was on the press's minds is that this turned into really a waiting game for many, many hours as it got on through the course of the day and toward night again. And for you continuing to just go around doing your jobs, what was kind of going through your minds as the day waned and no arrest had been made, and what are you thinking at that point?
Well, I think we're all thinking, where is this person? We didn't think it was going to be, it was going to go on indefinitely, obviously. At one point during our search time, we thought that it was close to resolution. A woman had called or texted her mother and said that she was being held by an armed man in her apartment, and that was probably about half a mile away from our search area. And come to find out, Watertown PD had responded to that house many times before for mental health issues.
Oh, wow.
And in fact, it was a mental health issue. She was alone in her apartment, and but obviously there was an initial response there, thinking that this is how this is going to end today. And again, until it's over, you really don't know where he is, what he's capable of, or what his intentions are.
Sure. So, how did your day end? I guess. This kind of wrapped up. It seemed to wrap up around 9:30 when they had the press conference, and I think a lot of units rolled out at that point. Were you one of them?
Well, our day ended for us. Initially, we were going to be tasked with staying in Boston until midnight to relieve the Boston SWAT team. And there were a few other teams that had come in from, I believe, New Hampshire and elsewhere, some of whom were obviously a little bit more well-rested and hadn't been up for as long as we did. So we were relieved at about 6 o'clock, and we maintained our radios on the trip back to the Cape, and we obviously heard on the tactical channel that they thought they located him in a boat, and we monitored that all the way home, and ultimately we were hearing the shots being fired, and we all had the same instinct to turn around and go and help. The problem with doing that is the incident commander was specifically saying to everybody that was on the radio, do not self-deploy. And the reason for that is there's enough confusion, and they already had a game plan. They had teams that were tasked with doing what they needed to do. And for several individuals, or even a couple of complete teams to show up without advanced communication or without an assignment is only going to add confusion to an already tense situation. So at that point, despite the human instinct to return and be part of it, the professional decision had to be that we were already there, we had done our part, and there were other people that were prepared, better rested, and you have to let them do their job.
So you basically got to finish it out much like the rest of us did, just kind of listening to it all happen.
Exactly.
Wow. What was that like? I mean, how does that feel to you to kind of, at the end of it all, just have that be?
Well, it was tough. I mean, prior to leaving, half an hour before, maybe Sergeant Damry said, okay, when we thought we may be back Saturday morning or we're going to have to stay till midnight, he was looking for volunteers from the team to stay until midnight, and every single person said, yeah, I'm in. So, we were there to do whatever it took. So driving home, listening to that, and I can probably speak for everybody that it was extremely, extremely difficult to listen to that and not be a part of it, just to make sure everybody's safe. But exactly what Sergeant Damry said is that's just what you have to do.
Mm-hmm. And it was a team effort, as you've said.
It was. It wasn't just a Cape Cod SWAT team effort. It was a law enforcement community team effort. And again, it was a very large team. And when your group is done, you have to let the next group take over. That's just how it is.
Absolutely.
And I salute the motivation, because everybody wanted to turn around and be part of it. But again, you have to look at the fatigue factor and the fact that there was a group of people that were there that were well rested, and the incident commander was specifically asking people not to self-deploy. So you have to go along with that.
Mm-hmm. How long had you both been awake at this point?
I had been up since about 1:30 in the morning when I got that first phone call. I wound up going. Obviously I was sleeping, and as soon as I got the first phone call, I figured there was going to be several after that. So I just went downstairs so that my wife and my 7-month-old dog wouldn't be woken up constantly.
Yeah. And how about you, Officer?
Well, the page came out from Sergeant Damry, the standby page, a little after 2 in the morning. And from there, and from each one of us being there at different times during the week, just ready, waiting, and anxious to get going.
Sure.
So there was no sleep after that. It was starting to get geared together and just waiting for the final call.
Mm-hmm. So, well, it's been more than a week now. How has it been to go back to your everyday patrols? You're in patrol gear right now. I mean, how is this day felt normal to you?
In this work, just days continue. The calendar kind of disappears, and it's just another day. And as we reflect and watch the TV and speak to other people and hear other people's stories and read the newspapers, I'm just very proud to say that I was a part of that. But work continues, and we still just go call to call here just every day, and it's waiting for the next thing to happen. That's what this job is all about.
Well, officers, thank you so much for talking to me today.
Our pleasure.
Welcome.
My guests today were Barnstable Police Sergeant Mike Damry and Patrol Officer John Pass. They were two of the thousands who participated in the manhunt for marathon bombing suspect Jahar Sarnayev. I'm Annie Ropeek. You're listening to Sunday Journal.
This podcast is a presentation of Cape Cod Broadcasting, which is solely responsible for its content. Thank you for listening. For more information, please visit us at capecodbroadcasting.com.